Welcome everyone to this wonderful setting. It may look like we were in Pasadena, California, but we are not. We are actually at Gamescom Hall 8, right next to the ESL stage, and we have with us the great Kevin Sussman.
Hello.
Better known to the Big Bang Theory fans as Stuart Bloom, owner of the comic book shop, a very iconic part of the show. So tell us a little bit about your gaming background. Do you like video games? Do you play video games?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an old timer. I've been playing video games since Pong, basically. I remember when I used to go to my brother's orthodontist, they had Pong, and you play on these little paddles. And I was just so amazed that you can control what's happening on the TV. That was just mind-blowing to me. But I still play all these years later. And now I play, I'll often play Red Dead Redemption, the new one, which is, I'm really too old to be playing because it's so friggin' hard. I cannot play that game for 20 minutes without having an entire town running after me. And I'm there's so many control, I love that you can do so much stuff in the game, but it means that you have to know so many different controls, and I don't play often enough to remember. So every time I do play, I have forgotten how to do everything. And so I sneak into town because I'm always wanted. And then as soon as I try to do some sell a deer or something, I just pull out my gun and accidentally shoot somebody. And I just, it's just frustrating.
Unfortunate. Have you tried any competitive online video games?
My friends and I in college, we used to play each other in StarCraft. This is the old StarCraft.
The OG eSports title, yes.
Yeah. Which was so much fun. I would never be able to compete online with the actual people that know what they're doing, though. No.
So you played StarCraft. Did you follow a little bit the pro scene of StarCraft, or?
I have seen the videos online, and it's just completely different. Online, the matches last 5 minutes, and they only use a couple of different units before the game is over, and that was so different than when we were playing in college, where matches would go on for 2 hours because nobody was good enough to wipe anybody out, and so you'd wind up turtling and just having all your defenses, and then it just in 2 hours, it's more like a war of attrition where after 2 hours somebody just gets frustrated and throws their entire army, and the whole thing is over in a minute.
Right. So let's jump a little bit into the universe of the Big Bang Theory. Which video game character would you compare your character Stuart to?
Stuart would be a non-player character that's stuck in the world somewhere just banging against the wall.
Okay. If Stuart decided to host an eSports tournament in the comic book shop, what game would it be and why? It could be any game.
Probably be League of Legends, only because it's so popular, and Stuart isn't going to risk, it's hard enough to make ends meet as it is. He's not going to do some new alt game. Right. He's not going to do some highly reviewed but little known indie game, because he just can't afford to take that kind of risk.
Wouldn't he do one of the classics? Sort of a Pong tournament or something like that?
Actually, that would be cool. In fact, I was in the retro game chamber here, and I was playing Pong. And Pong look, Red Dead Redemption is a great game, but Pong for an action game, Pong still stands up in its simplicity. If you play Pong with another person, it's really fun. And there are action games that look great but get boring really quickly. As long as you have an actual opponent, Pong 30 years later is still a fun game.
Of course. Now in esports, a lot of the teams are conformed They have their specific positions. One of the most common ones is support, the support role, the person who heals, who sets up the place. Which one of the Big Bang Theory characters would be the best support?
I guess it would be Amy, because she obviously is constantly supporting Sheldon.
Right.
She's in that support role.
Yeah, she's in the
She
group.
helps lubricate the world around him so that he doesn't do as much damage as he could.
Right.
So, yeah.
There's also a very common position, the carry, the person who does all the big plays, who gets all the points, who, you know, the star player. Who would that be from the Big Bang Theory?
You know, I'm gonna say Penny, because she's the most capable out there in the world, outside of this living room.
Yeah.
She's the one that could like walk into any actual place and be a
Good mechanical skills.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And who would be the captain of the team?
Sheldon, not by vote, by his own choice.
Right. Would Sheldon be a good teammate to have on an online game?
I mean, of course not. But he would be really, really good at one specific thing. So as long as the captain could, you know, or who, as long as maybe Amy could corral him into doing one very specific thing, I'm sure he'd do whatever that thing is very, very well.
Right.
The problem is he'd want to tell everybody else what they should be doing.
Right, of course. And everyone should just follow along.
Yeah.
Or he will just rage quit.
Yeah.
Speaking of rage quitting, in gaming there's this concept of getting salty, of, you know, being frustrated and sort of quitting. Who would be the saltiest of the Big Bang Theory characters as an esports player?
Oh, Bernadette. Hands down. Yeah, she would get mean.
What would Stuart's Twitch channel look like? What would that stream sort of feel like?
Depressing. Probably be a lot of downtime. A lot of like checking the channel and it's just like Stuart sitting there, you know, eating soup. Lot of rage quitting.
Which games would he play?
Competitive Frogger.
Good choice.
Stuart would be doing the last generation console. Whatever that is.
Who would be the most entertaining streamer out of the gang?
Probably Howard, because he could like play the game and narrate it in Nicolas Cage's voice, or do, you know, play Doom as Christopher Walken.
Sure. Let's jump back a little bit to the show. Now that it has ended and you can sort of look back on it, how do you feel about it?
Melancholy. I mean, it's nice I'm excited about, you know, doing stuff that isn't Stuart, but everybody on that show, it really was like, as cliche as it sounds, it was like a nice big family. Everybody loved each other. So it was sad when we read the first the script for the final episode that day, where we all sat around the table to read that. Everyone was sobbing, and I promised myself I wasn't going to cry. And no, 10 seconds into it, I was a mess. So I'll miss it. Time really flew by. I can't believe I was on the show for 11 years. I can't believe it. I've never done anything for close to that long. So it's been my favorite job, and I just feel lucky to have been a part of it.
The show is credited by many people as being sort of a catalyst for making sort of geek culture cool. What's your take on that? What do you think about that?
You know, having worked at a comic book store in real life before the show, I saw what just like, you know, the nerds that came into the shop back then, the scope of what nerd is has just grown and grown and grown. Back then it was a derogatory term, and now like it's an honor to be a nerd. I mean, there's 100,000 people here today, and we all identify as nerds. And I don't know how much The Big Bang Theory sort of pushed that along, as well as superhero movies, which have just exploded. When I worked in a real comic book store, I think Batman, the first Batman with Michael Keaton, had just come out. And actually that movie made our store do so much better. We were like a junky little, I mean, it was a good comic book store, but tiny. And that movie came out and we grew as a store, and then comic book culture and superhero culture over the years has just exploded.
Just to close up, one final question. What was your favorite moment on the show?
You know, I've been asked that before, and I think overall, my favorite thing about working on the show is we would be like hanging out in the living room set or in the comic book store, and on the show we're just like friends hanging out, chatting, talking, goofing around, and then they would call cut and we'd still just be standing around chatting, goofing around, and like friends, like about not the show friends, but like a group of friends that just enjoy each other, enjoy hanging out, and it wasn't so much like one particular moment as just like hanging around with a bunch of friends and just doing the thing that you like to do. That.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin. It was a pleasure chatting to you in this amazing setting. If you guys want to come have a picture in this very iconic living room, you can visit us in Hall 8 next to the ESL stage. Thank you very much once again.
Oh, thank you. This is fun.